All right, we're going to get started here. And before we get started, we all want to say hi, Terry. We hope you're feeling better much sooner, very soon. And everyone just wants to wave and say hi.
Hi, Terry.
Hi.
Hi, Terry.
Get well soon, Terry. All right. And so, Terry, just so you know, because everyone else knows, just so you know, we are painting value studies basically of Italian sculptures this week. And so I'm going to do a quick demo and really focus on values. A good way to focus on values, by the way, is to use one color. One color is what I'm asking you to do this week. And so I'm going to be using Payne's gray. You're going to want to pick something that's very dark, and that then you can then use the full spectrum from almost white all the way to black. So Payne's gray does that for me. Black would also work very nicely. A really dark brown umber or something like that would work. It starts, you know, if you start using greens, they're never, well, they might. That Paroline green you said was pretty dark. So you can think about that, but those are the ones that I would choose first, Payne's gray, black, or a really dark brown. They're also the most traditional colors for this sort of study. So
I think neutral tint would work well as well.
but it doesn't get dark enough. It's not black. If you're only using one color, you know, you can't get that last 20, 30% of value.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful color, neutral tint, but it's not going to give you that deep, rich black. So, all right, so here we go. So first thing I want to do is, it's a little bit of a drawing lesson, and that is take a look at the head, especially in relationship to the sides of the paper. And you'll see that it's tilting forward. It's tilting forward on this side. So I'm going to find that tilt. I'll draw a little darker than I normally do. And then the top of the head is going to come this way. And then it's going to come this way, but I'm going to add the crown on the back of the head, because what we really have here is a rectangle, guys, a nice rectangle. And so that's where I'm starting, is with that rectangle. And then you have to add the crown to the head, and then some of it's going to come off the front here. So now I'm going to ask myself, well, what are the proportions of that face? And there's something very interesting that happens. We start at the top of the forehead here, just under the hair here, and we go to where the nose begins. It's almost exactly the same length as the top of the nose to the bottom of the nose. And then the bottom of the nose to the chin right about here is the same length. So we're going to divide that into threes. It's almost exactly thirds. It's these beautiful proportions that they constantly looked for in their sculptures and in their paintings. And so that's why we're going to be using them, of course, because we're going to be learning from them. So here we go. So now I know where the forehead begins. And we've got this brow that comes down over here. The nose actually starts a little bit above that, like right about here. And then it comes out this way. A beautiful little arc in the nose. And then the nose comes, we're going to have underneath that nose. So that nose has a lovely little swoop and it'll round it out. And then it does, there's the nostril. And then that nostril is going to come up this way. It's going to come this way. And it's even got a little line there. And then, so there's the arc, and then the tip of the nose has to come out a little further than that. There we go. And that's going to be the nostril. So then we've got the top lip. Where does that begin? Underneath the nose, back a little bit further, about here. It comes out, and then that line goes that way. It's really just going to go just a little past the nose, the edge of the mouth. It's just to about there maybe. And then that really turns down that lip, because we're looking up at this sculpture. We're looking up at it. So that turns there, this comes here. And look how the chin comes in front of that lip. Look down a little bit further, it comes in front of that lip, and then it turns. And then it doesn't come straight back, it comes down at an arc like this, that neck. It comes down at an arc like that. So that's the beginning. I make this a little bit smaller here. And there's the forehead coming up. And then where's the eye in relationship to this? Well, the eye is, if this is the nose, that nose got just a touch too long. Hold on. And I did that to show you how to properly use an eraser.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you know how to use an eraser. And so there, because that is good information right there. And so this goes this way and this way. Well, it also, and there's the forehead coming up. Okay, good. And then here comes that eye. So here's, if this is the, that's too pronounced. It has to come in a little bit. Sorry. It's so nuanced, this darn thing, that you have to sort of slow down and really try to get it right. Okay. And then the nose, where does that, if this is where the nostril is, right here, how far up does that shadow begin? Right about here. I mean, it's really right about here. And then we got this great shadow coming up, coming around the eye this way and down into the eye here. And then look at the beautiful angle of the cheekbone right here coming up that way. And then we've got the eye coming off of that. So if this is the shadow, the eye really starts right about back here. And then it dips in slightly. There's the eye itself. There's a curve right here, a little hint right there. And then it comes down, it comes and then wraps around that eye right there. And then at the top, we've got a second lid right there. And then there's a shadow under that lid. And then we come up to the eyebrow coming this way. And then there's also a shadow next to the eye right here. Well, then that tells us where the hair begins as well. So where's the ear in relationship to this? Well, if that's the eye, and I bring it across this way, that's the center of the eye. That's almost the center of the ear. And how far away from the eye is the ear? This actually is going to come up this way. That ear is going to come, here's that shadow and the sideburn right here. That ear really begins right here and wraps around like this. And I'll get more detail in that ear in a bit. And then where's that, if we know where the ear is, then we know where the jawbone begins. And here's the jawbone starts here, and then it turns here, and then it's going to come all the way down to the chin, of course. And there's a little arc in that right there. There's a little arc in the shadow right there. Let's look at the shadow down below. It comes this way. It comes this. It's going to be deeper. Comes this way. Comes this way, and then it comes around like this up to the back of this jawbone right here. And then there's a little shadow behind the ear right there. And then there's this great neck that comes down. It kind of pops out a little bit more right there. It comes down this way. And then over here, that's a little long. This part is a little long. That's about right. And here's the sort of an Adam's apple here. And then the neck comes this way. And then we've got this beautiful line off of this that kind of almost begins off of the shadow. That's a little too deep. Then it comes this way and this way, that muscle of the neck. And then you've got this great shadow right in here. And then this shoulder, if that's the neck coming down, that's the ear. The hair really comes down quite far, this back hair right here. And then if that's the chin, boy, that shoulder's way down here. That's a long neck, man. And then that starts to dip towards the shoulder over here, maybe even slightly lower than that. And on this side, we have the sling. So we're gonna leave that out of the equation. Skip the sling, skip the hand. Let's focus on the head. Here's the coming up, and then here's the hair. Actually comes out just about where the eyebrow is, and then it comes around. What a hairdo! What a hair.
Pompadour.
Say it again.
Then called a pompadour.
Is
When your hair
that what that's called?
That's what the weird teenagers of the 50s did.
It's pretty fabulous, and I think I'll be getting one myself to go with that.
Maybe it's a mullet. Look at that. Short in the front, party in the back.
It's going to look great with my new robe that I'm having made.
Yeah.
This is going to work out just fine. I think I went too high with this hair. I think it's more like down here, and I exaggerated the back a little bit. I'm going to just lift some of that because it was starting to get too elongated. So we're going to start there, and then we'll work on it from there. So that's the basic quick sketch. And so now I'm going to jump in and I'm going to start in with the washes. And I think the best place to start, and it's pretty traditional, is with the lightest washes and then work your way towards the darker stuff. And so this will be fairly fast because I want to give you guys enough time to paint. I look at the face right here and I say, well, where's the white in that face? And I realize there is no white. There might be a touch on the edge of the nose right there, but that's the brightest spot on the whole face. The real white in this picture is up on top of the head up here. These values are slightly darker than that, like maybe a 2 or 3% value where that's the 0. The blackest blacks are going to be the nostril, the ear, and in the hair are going to be the darkest colors in this. So let's start with the lightest colors. And that's going to be that 2 or 3% value I said on the cheek. And so we've got this really light color coming down this way. It's on the nose. And then I'm going to leave maybe just a little highlight on the nose right here where I see something very close to white. And then I'm going to bring this down this way. The upper lip also gets that. The upper lip gets it. Right here on the face, so the light's falling across the face. So then we've got it on the cheek right here, on the chin, I'm sorry. I'm taking on the chin. And then here it gets a little bit darker, this side. And I'll put a second wash on this, but I'll make it a little darker. And then that's going to be the next value. This side that's that value, whatever that value is, 5 or 4.5, something like this. And that's going to go in here. And then when I get down to the where the shadow begins, and by the way, I would have drawn much lighter. This is so you can see it well on the screen. It really starts kind of quite subtly over here. And I'm not going to use too wet a wash because I don't want it all running into each other. So I'm going to put down the shape, but I'm not going to refine it at this point. And I'm not going to darken this. This needs to go much darker. But it'll be so much easier when it's had a chance to dry a little bit. I don't want to do it now because all of this will just bleed into the face. And I don't want that to happen. So, but here I can go put this shadow in back behind the ear. Again, it will need to go darker, but at least I'm gathering the shapes at this point. Around the eye, we've got this, and I'm going to grab a smaller brush for this. All right, I'm going to just use this little brush because I don't know where the other one is. And we've got a pretty dark value around this shadow right here around the eye. And I'm going to get that shape in the way I see it. And here comes some of the darker colors. As I start to do that, now you're starting to add some of the darker colors. And then there is a rather dark line right here, and I can always make it darker, but right here, it starts right here and comes this way. And then there's another one at the top right there. It comes that way. And then we've got under the bottom lid, we've got that line coming this way and another one just below it with a little bit of shadow right there. I'll lift it just a little bit, it's lighter than that. Okay, and then under the nose, the lighter shadow, not the nostril, but the lighter shadow under the nose is right here. And I think that's about right in terms of value. And then the upper lip, and we can always darken it. And then the upper lip, we've got this shadow right there at the edge of the mouth. And then we've got the lip, we've got this part is really dark, and the upper part of the lip is lighter. It's lighter. And then the bottom lip, there's a beautiful piece of light on that lip before we get down to the edge of the lip. And then it comes this way, it comes that way. And then we can soften the edge of this, we can soften the edge of that. And then we can go further, and then we're going to stop there on the face for now. We've got it. We do have I got to wait for it. I'm not going to wait for it. I'm going to put in this light wash right here. There's a little wash on top of the eye right here. And then you really have this beautiful gray that comes off of the eye right here and comes this way. Another shadow right there. And then the hair is really going to go start way up here because we've got this shape, and then we've got this shadow right here on the forehead. And then it really comes all the way up here with this beautiful piece of light right there. So I want to save that piece of light right there, that description around the eye. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this shadow in for the neck muscle coming down this way, and it kind of comes behind the neck as well. I'm going to soften this edge because it's really a transition. And then I'm going to have this come this way. This is that, you know, the Adam's apple, the muscle, the neck muscles really. And I'm going to soften that edge right there. And I'm going to, you know, just add a little bit more dark right there in the bottom part of that. Not that dark. Okay, better. And then the hair. Now, when you do the hair, you go, and I'm going to get a little bit of color on that ear because it's not a bright white either. So get a little bit of color on that. Of course, then we'll work in the darkest parts of that ear and then the more subtle shadows in there. But let's look at the hair. Like you do yourself a huge favor and start painting the values you see in the hair in shapes, not in individual turns and things like this. So for example, this is all in shadow down to here. This is all in shadow down to here. So I'm just going to put that all in shadow. The real light starts right here with these. And if you miss a couple, it's okay. The eye won't know it. So don't spend all your time on the hair. Spend most of your time on the face is really what we're doing. And so this comes around, and then we start to get into more light up here. So we're just going to suggest that, and we're going to let this go into shadow right here. We're going to find the other shadow. So over here above the ear, shadow, shadow, little curl that you can see a little bit of light from, but all of this is shadow. This is, again, these lovely curls. You know, sometimes when I'm working on this, I feel like I'm doing a self-portrait.
Uh-huh. I think so.
Yes, I can see so many similarities between me and David. All right, so that's where we're starting this now, and then I'm going to just do a tiny bit more, and then I'm going to set you guys loose. This is where the next part comes in. So quick dry. Here comes the hair dryer. We've got, so here's where step 2 comes in. We've got the underpainting in there. We're happy with that. We make all our corrections at that stage if we see stuff that needs to change. And I see a couple things that need to change. We'll keep going. But next thing we do is we start putting in the darks. So the next darker color, and that's going to be wrapping around the chin here, this lovely shadow right here. And then it comes up like that a little bit, it comes down this way. And then it wraps around the chin here. It actually comes higher than I had it. It comes up higher this way. And then I'm going to soften that shadow down here because there's light reflecting under the chin right here that I don't want to lose. You can see it down here. So I'm trying to.
Fred?
Yeah.
How much water is on that brush that you're softening things with?
When I'm softening things, I dip it in water, then I completely dry it until it's just holding a little water. Then I soften with a lightly damp brush. And that's the only way to do it. If it's got too much water in it, it immediately starts to bleed into the rest of it. Now that I've got that shadow in there, I'm going to now just what I just did. I just dip it in water, and I'm just going to pull it across the paper towel a couple times. And now I'm going to soften this edge here around the jawline. So you start the water back a little bit, and then you touch that edge, and then you touch that edge. And that's the right way to do it. Again, here, just soften that edge of that shadow because it's just too strong, too powerful. It's not the right transition. And then again, right here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to just soften that edge, noodle it a little bit. And then you've got a softer edge to work with. And as a matter of fact, it's almost still too dark. So I'm going to take that damp brush and I'm just going to pull some of the pigment out of that edge so that it's a softer transition. while I'm thinking of it, I'm just getting a couple of darks. Here's the nostril, which is one of the darkest things on the painting.
What's that noise?
Somebody Stellar J outside, sounds like.
Leave that bird alone. Stop. And then this gets a little darker right in here. So now this is where the richer colors are going to come into the equation. We've got a nice dark right along the lip here. Just the edge. It's just the edge of this lip. Got a beautiful.
It's all Payne's gray that you have there?
Just Payne's gray is all I'm using. Just Payne's gray.
Okay.
And it's really a wonderful way to just think in terms of values, lights and darks. And then the one other thing, and I'm going to, go through the hair and do that kind of stuff. But one of the last things I'd like you to think about is put a strong, look at the beautiful way the face plays off of this background. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to take some dark Payne's gray, and I'm going to revisit this edge. So here comes that edge. And it's a great chance to refine the lines. In your painting and find the real beauty of that edge.
That's a tiny brush.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've lost my number 4. I'm going to order one today, as a matter of fact. And I don't know. I've searched. I don't know what to do with it. Got lost along the way. And then this is going to wrap around this way. And then something when I do this, there's something I like to do as well. Is now that I've got that edge sort of cut out with the darker color, I can then take just a damp brush and start the water back here again and just touch that edge. And so this edge doesn't become too interesting. Don't let this edge become too interesting. And then just let this fade out like that. All right, do you want to give it a try?
I want a nap.
Not so much.
All right. Well, then I'll get it on the screen right away. And because I can tell you're all dying to give this a try. This is so good for you. I do this for you, people. And here comes the image on the screen for you. And this, you won't have a lot of time, unfortunately. So think of it.
You want to stop the recording?
Thank you so much for that.